Let's call the Education Affairs Committee to order. I'd like to start with a roll call. Let's start with Ms. Mulhern.
Sure. Leah Mulhern, present.
Ross Whiting, present.
Daniel Schultz, present.
Pam Henry, present.
Okay. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 22nd meeting.
So moved, Dan Schultz.
Second, Ross Whiting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. I am turning over the meeting to Ms. Charlene Collins.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight we will have a presentation from Zubairu around EPIC, and then we will conclude with an update on the graduation progress report for the class of 2024 and where we are with the class of 2025, myself and Ms. Girman. So I will turn it over to first, let me go back to, as you know, we always start off with our vision and mission statement. As we belong, engage, seeking justice, it guides all the work that we do here in the district. And it was important to us ensuring that our kids feel like they belong and they're becoming and excelling as well. As we're about to soon celebrate the class of 2025, we're excited. The strategic pillars that guides our work as we move forward and thinking about how we plan intentionally for our students at EPIC. I already told you that we're going to talk about the graduation pathway that we're on. So the empowerment program in Cheltenham, Dr. Zubairu.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Collins. So when the last time I sat before you here at Educational Affairs, the EPIC was just simply kind of a vision, right? We hadn't actually done it. Ms. Savage, Dr. Savage was here in December. I was not able to be here in December. And so now I get to sit here and kind of go look at the year in review, right? We get to look at how did we do? And so that's what this whole presentation is kind of geared to look at how it's been, who we've served, and to kind of look forward to next year and what's going to be happening. We started with a vision statement and I just highlighted some things and I just want to kind of talk a little bit about them. The empowerment program is designed to serve students who had attendance and engagement challenges. And overall, we have really served students who have attendance issues and engagement challenges. And in fact, those are the challenges that we spend most of our days working to try to come up with solutions. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's a group therapeutic dynamic that addresses holistic issues. We're aligned to the CHS curriculum, and we have a combination of both online and traditional instruction. So that's the vision statement. And our mission is to empower students to reach their full potential by offering personalized assistance, credit recovery, holistic services, additional pathways to success. And I have a couple members of the EPIC staff that are here tonight. Dr. Horsey's here. She's been helping support us. And Dr. Aziza Young is in the building every day as our building substitute, and she's become a valuable member of staff, meeting with students daily. So they're both here this evening. So I'm hopeful that I do honor for them as well. But I will just say this, that everybody who walks into EPIC, regardless of who they are, as an adult who comes in, sometimes I'll have a daily substitute come in or we'll have a visitor come in. And the one thing that I say to them, and you'll see it reflected here in the presentation, all I say to them is just please love and value our students, because that's what they need to feel. When they walk into our building, when they come in every day, they need to feel loved and valued, because kids who feel loved and valued will learn and will achieve and reach their potential. So I think that's the main part of our mission. And so let's do it by the numbers. We started with 50 students in August. I have 40 students currently enrolled. And so let me just kind of go back to why I lost a few. 5 students returned to CHS. We returned 5 students. We returned 3 students who were with us as regular EPIC students, and we returned them back at the semester time, just as we had kind of promised we would do. 2 students came to us from a hospitalization program, and we returned them back. So that's the 5 students. 4 were withdrawn completely from Cheltenham School District. So a couple of them, their families moved, or their family decided to go with a different option. So 4 withdrew. 2, it's in January, earned diplomas. So we had 1 student, class of 2023, who earned her diploma, and we had 1 student, class of 2024, who earned his diploma. And so those are the students who left. That's 9 students. We had 1 student join us from a hospital. So that's how I get to 40 who are there right now. Right now, we're kind of sweating this number, so we'll see where it comes. 74% of students eligible for a diploma are expected to graduate. 74%. That's where we are right now. I'd love it to be a little higher. But I have to tell you that I have 19 children who are eligible to graduate. 1 is class of 2023, 6 are class of 2024, and the additional are all class of 2025. All of those students are eligible to graduate. And those students are working very hard. And I will tell you that a couple of them are slam dunks. Like they're absolutely, like I can tell you right now, I know I have 8 kids that I know for sure are going to be walking across that stage. The others, I'm like, we're pulling teeth, and my team is working every day, all day, to make sure that the kids get done what they're doing, what they need to do. So I just kind of want to put that out there that I'm hoping that 74% becomes a greater number, but boy, we're working for every one of those kids to make sure that they graduate. We had 4 students who took the ASVAB and who met with US Navy recruiters as part of their transition. Our transition coordinator is Amanda Roman from the high school. She comes to us 1 day a week. She met with all the kids and found out what their interest was. And when the students said they were really thinking about military service, she reached out to the US Navy. Actually, she reached out to the US Marines. We started with the Marines. And when the kids heard the requirements for being a Marine, they kind of said, well, maybe we need something else. Right? And so they kind of shifted, and we ended up with the US Navy. Because of the requirements, and so they took the ASVAB. They had difficulty with the ASVAB, so they're going to be coming back in June and retaking the ASVAB. They've gotten books, study guide materials from recruiting offices, and we have helped them with the app that they can answer questions and things like that. So we're working with them on that. We have children who've been accepted and have placed applications into post-secondary programs. We have several students who've already been accepted to Monco. We have at least 1 who's Community College of Philadelphia bound. We have about 7 students who have expressed interest in the Automotive Training Center. And we have 2 students who have applied to Thaddeus Stevens Trade School. So we have definitely really taken it up a notch about talking about post-secondary planning. I have a student who told his mom in an IEP meeting, he goes, they just talk about different stuff here. We haven't talked about this kind of stuff before. So he's talking about his transition plan. He's talking about going to automotive training. He's talking about Eastern. And he says to his mom, we just talk about different stuff here. And that's true, we do. I mean, we spend an awful lot of time talking about, it's great to get a diploma, but what for? What are we going to do with it? So that's kind of where that comes. We have earned, as of the publication of this PowerPoint, we had done 95 credit recovery courses. It's now over 100, just in the past 2 weeks, because our kids are really trying to fire out to get that part of their life. I look at Rachel because I'm probably, I don't know, during the year, I might email like her once a month, once a week maybe, to say, enroll this kid in this one class. And I have literally been emailing you maybe 5 times each day, and it's like 1 or 2 courses for kids because they're just rolling through it. They're just making it through, which is a really great thing. We had 4 students on honor roll for working period 3, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but that is a big deal. These kids haven't been on honor roll before, so we're very proud of them. And we've had 15 speakers in Dress for Success every Thursday. You've probably seen it in some of the This is Cheltenham literature. We shut down the building at 1 o'clock every Thursday. And for a full hour, they hear from a community member. And you'll see here, some of them are CHS alumni. We really try to pull in as many people as we can that come in and speak to the kids about their career, about the opportunities in their career, their field. Tomorrow's person is a photographer who owns a business. A student went up to my teacher who plans the Dress for Success program and said, I'm really into photography. And so he reached into his network and he found a photographer who owns a business. And so she's coming in to talk about setting up a business and those kinds of things in photography. But our CHS alumni who've been there, I have Dr. Young, who's an alumni, who was one of our Dress for Success speakers. She's a chef. And so she cooked for the kids, which was really amazing. And we had a financial literacy gentleman and a National Guard person came in who were all Cheltenham alumni. And so you can see on our highlights, I put on here again that we just want to make kids feel loved and valued, and I think we do that. The goal is to develop deep and mature relationships among staff and students with each other. One of the other highlights has been collaboration with Cheltenham High School. We've instituted monthly nursing meetings because we realized the high school nurse is our school nurse, but we have a staff nurse. So we need to have everybody on the same page. So we have monthly meetings with the nurse. We have monthly on-site video visits by Cheltenham High School counselors. So they come into the building to meet with their kids. They did course selection in March. They've been really working hand in hand with us on graduation requirements and transcripts and those kinds of things. So that's an important piece. And our EPIC counselor participates in meetings with the counseling team over at the high school so that they're able to do that. They have weekly meetings. And I attend the vice principal administration meeting with Dr. Hammond every Tuesday afternoon, and every Friday, Dr. Hammond and I connect. Dr. Hammond and I have a personal relationship because he and I were vice principals together. So we communicate quite a bit, and that's been a highlight as well. I think one of the other highlights is our team approach that we have, and I'm going to talk specifically about, that the teachers work together. I mean, we have 4 content created teachers, and they work together to make sure the kids are supported. But the piece that's really very unique, I think, to EPIC is the think tank approach, and Dr. Horsey and I have really put that together in that we're looking at, we have a problem, we have a challenge. And so we need to really think outside of the box for a student. We're not looking at traditional things. We're a tier 3 intervention, so we need to come up with other strategies. And so we need to bring people to the table who can help us with that. So we've had Dr. Katrenbone in on some of those meetings. We've had Ms. Keene on some of those meetings. We've had Michelle Horsey in on a lot of those meetings, where we come up with strategies. What can we do through the IEP to help this student graduate and move forward to meet their potential? What can we do via the 504? What can we do via the attendance policies? How can we support a student? And sometimes it's as simple as we need to text the child every morning to make sure that they're coming to school, or we need to reach out to the parent once a week. We have, different pockets of people doing different things, but that's one of the things that I think is really different about EPIC and what we do there. I wanted to just put those out there. The highlights we have wellness supports this year. Hope provides daily counseling for 10 of our students. A counselor pushes into classrooms and supports students and teachers daily. She's always pushing in. They're dissecting today. They were dissecting fish, so she pushed in there so she could help support that. In the science class, that she's with the Triumph Counseling Group. We had a crisis interventionist from the Lincoln Center. He was running boy groups every Thursday. They were having pizza every Thursday and talking through things that were important to them. And we do have a lakeside counselor that comes and serves some of our students with IEPs, and Michelle Horsey, the secondary home and school visitor and school social worker, have been key parts of our supports. We have weekly events and celebrations. As I mentioned, Dress for Success is there, and our EPIC counselor and our paraprofessional. We have one paraprofessional. She's amazing. And we have our counselor, they work together to create week-long events. She started with Red Ribbon Week. These are just a couple. She, during Valentine's, planned activities for that whole week where the kids could kind of work with each other, not romantic Valentines, more friendship Valentines. And she just finished up Mindfulness Week. So she plans events for that. And the challenges. And so some of these challenges you will find are challenges in all of our schools. So let me start with cell phones. So we had a really very big kind of conversation as a staff about what to do with cell phones. And so we knew we had to do something differently than the high school was doing. Because we're a smaller community and we can do things differently, and we know they were impacting our students' learning. So we needed to do something. However, we didn't want to go full force and put them in a box in the main office, like a lockbox in the main office. We didn't want to do that. So we started to come up with different ways to do that. It continues to be a struggle. It continues to be a struggle. Just the phones, and what we're finding is that, our parent partners aren't always as willing as what we'd like them to be in helping us, keep your kids' phone at home. We don't need them to have their phone. Parents are reluctant to do that. And so, I understand that. And so we have to kind of work through that, but it becomes a challenge for us. It creates just dissension in the classroom sometimes and distraction. Consistent proactive planning with CHS events. And I listed a couple here: pep rallies, class meetings, guest speakers, and clubs. We're not having much trouble planning the after-school activities. I have a bus that that shuttles them to the high school. If a kid wants to go to the high school, they can get there. It's not a problem. The things that I'm having trouble with, in general, that becomes a challenge, are those things that pop up at the high school, as they do, that I don't have lead time to get the kids over there. And I need lead time. I need to be able to get a bus. I need to be able to pay for a bus. I need to be able to tell you who's going to be on that bus. I can't just today was a great example. We had Monco was going to be over in the counseling department. I didn't know about it until Monday. I didn't know about it. So if I don't know about it, I can't figure out which kids need to go over. How do I get them over there? And how do we do that? And so that was a missed opportunity that we shouldn't have missed. So that's a challenge for us. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. I just need to put a system in place so that we're better at anticipating those events. Like, I need to be better at asking in May, at the beginning of May, when's Montco coming? Because I know that's coming. And so we just need to get better at that, and I need to put a system in place to do that. So we will get better. Students working on credit recovery consistently. I think if you talk to my staff, they would tell you that the kids are really focused right now on credit recovery because their graduation requirements. They weren't first semester, and that was really a flaw. Like, we were more focused on making sure that the community was developed and that the teaching was happening and that the facility was working and all of that. And so we weren't necessarily beating the credit recovery drum, but we need to do that from the very beginning. And so we need to do a better job of that. And consistent communications with families about student progress. While we had conferences in the fall and we had conferences in the spring, and we had a really very successful spring conference season because we did them as a team. And the parents loved that when we did a team approach to have multiple teachers around the table, counselor, administrator, we were all there. They loved that. We needed to be more consistent from the very beginning. And so we need to do a better job of that. And AI, which I know you're all hearing about that in every context of our lives. For us at Credit Recovery, I got a call from our credit recovery partner that a student was doing, a 100 question test in 5 seconds and getting a 100%. And it's kind of like, well, that's really awesome, but that's impossible. So he's using AI to do that. And so we've had to put some things in place. I would argue that our partner needs to put some things in place to make sure that kids can't do that to their courses, but we have to be able to have some ways to make that happen as well. And so the AI use isn't an unusual problem. I know you've heard that before, but it has a very specific piece for us. So we need to really pay attention to that. And just really looking ahead to next year, we need weekly time dedicated to communicating and special presentation for our families. We didn't do nearly as many evening meetings. We had a really great mental health presentation in an evening, but we didn't do as many evening kind of meetings, getting parents out or even getting them on a virtual meeting on a topic that was important to them. And that was a goal, and it just didn't happen the way it needed to. So that is one thing that we need to enhance for next year. We need to begin graduation progress conversation from the beginning of the year. I was pretty clear in March that we needed to have like a checklist so that kids could know, like, how many credits do I have and what courses do I need to take and where am I? And we had a really great progress monitoring system in place. I put a progress monitoring system in place. We need to do a couple things. We need to start that at the beginning. We need every kid to do it, not just our seniors, so that every kid has a sense of where they are and where they're going. And we need to be more intentional about that. We need to continue Dress for Success, and we need to start at the beginning of the year because that didn't start until about November. This past year, our anticipated enrollment for the first semester is 50. And I've been working with the high school team and Dr. Savage to ensure that we have set criteria, which we didn't last year because we didn't know how this was going to work. We have set criteria. Ms. Girman, I think you were on that meeting where we talked about the criteria to get in, and the month of July is when we're going to really make sure that we know exactly who those students are. And we're shooting for 50 again, just like we did this year. So we'll be shooting for 50. I need progress monitoring by staff. And when I say that, right now, I'm the one doing most of the progress monitoring. I need every adult in the building, Dr. Young, Dr. Horsey, all my paraprofessional, my administrative assistant. I need all hands on deck because it's all of us. And they all function that way for everything else. I don't know why I didn't include them in on, here's how we progress monitor, and I need you all to do it with 3 kids or with 2 kids. But I need to involve the entire staff in progress monitoring. And the exciting thing is we're going to be moving to the new wing at Elkins Park School. And last Wednesday, so let me just kind of say this is me going back after a decade. I was at Elkins Park School, for those of you who don't know. I spent the years of 2005 to 2016 over at Elkins Park School as its vice principal. I'm excited to be returning back to the building. It's a building I know I'm familiar with, for better or worse. And so I like the building. We went over on the 14th in the morning and we kind of scoped it out. Ms. Nelson was an amazing host and brought us all in. We saw the 12 classrooms. We're going to be using the main office, and we have some additional administrative space that we'll be using. So we got to see that last Wednesday, and we'll be kind of going back over again to double check it. So that's kind of where we are for next year. Are there any? I mean, I guess it's the question. Are there any questions for me in this first year? First of all, I just need to say thank you to the board for allowing us to put this together the way we did. It's very special that we did this. I didn't anticipate, this was the topic of my doctorate. And so when I look at the kids, there are 40 of them now. When I look at them, you think about, what's gotten them to this point. There are push out factors for things that push them out of high school. And there are pull out things that pull them out. Most of our students right now are not looking at those push out things. It's not because they didn't like the teachers or they didn't like the content. It has nothing to do with the high school. It's more to do with the things that pull them out, right? Their family situations. And I underestimated the depth and breadth of the trauma of our children, and of our neediest high school children. And Dr. Hersey, I think you might agree with me that on a daily basis, I mean, there are days that I get in and we have spent the entire morning trying to figure out a problem, whether it's a student who's been emancipated from parents or a student whose mother just kicked him or her out for the day, for the month, and now he doesn't know what he's going to do. Whether it's getting sandwiches for a kid who doesn't have anything to eat, whether it's, there is a lot of just really kind of, we have a student who has a child. We have all kinds of things, and we spend an awful lot of time trying to make sure that they're supported, loved, valued, and that they can accomplish their goal. And so I just am humbled every day that I have the opportunity to do this work. So thank you to the board for making that a priority.
Any questions from the board?
It's
I'll
not,
go next.
it's not so much a question as just a thank you. It was an awesome presentation and I really appreciated hearing, I think how you moved through like what the goals were, like what you've done, and then hearing like being frank about the challenges and also like you're already planning to address, like it's just so great. So, and so hearing like your compassion and your excitement is it's very moving, I think, as a board member, as a parent, as a community member. I love just at the end where you talked about the push out versus the pull out. And I think that we all, I just had a moment regarding trauma today with a student at the PBL exhibit, reading something at High School Park and thinking this happened to a student in our district in the last month. And I think we all forget sometimes that there are kids, they need a lot from us. So I appreciate that. And as someone who's been in the building a few times recently, I felt, even just as an adult coming in, I felt welcomed and I felt loved and appreciated and everyone was lovely. So you're doing amazing things.
Thank you. I think the team that we've assembled, and I say we because we all did it. The team that we've assembled is a team that's top-notch, stellar. And they all are, that's what happens when you can hire with intention, right? We hired with the intention that we wanted to create that vibe in the building. And I think we were able to do that. And so I'm glad that you felt that way when you walked in.
Yeah, continuing the thanks, we just at our last legislative meeting, we voted on our next year's budget. And so what resonated with me the most, and I said this, was how we invest in Epic, right? Because that was such an example of, and you're talking about it tonight, right? How, and I want to say thanks to the administration because the board didn't say, go create Epic. Right? We didn't say, we see this is a problem and credit recovery and we need to show love and value. This was our administration, right? Coming to the board to say, look, this is something we need to do. So I want to reflect that thanks back to the administration because that, it shows that folks are listening, folks to the lived experience and actually doing something about it. And as a board, we were able to fund it. We were able to say, yes,
Absolutely.
we will fund this and again and again. And so I was honored to be able to have that role, but definitely, give credit where credit's due. So with that in line, you talked about some of the enhancements and look ahead, the challenges. What should we be approving next? Like in terms of, I know, just like what should be on our radar in terms of like, hey, as we think about how we're going to invest in the years to come, what are some things that we should be prioritizing?
I think, and Dr. Scriven and Dr. Savage came to Epic and spoke about the expansion of Epic and how we can serve more students in a way that doesn't necessarily increase staff. Because I think that is really the issue. Like I could serve 60 to 70 staff, but I need more teachers. I don't want more. I don't want us to get that big, but I think that we can really take a look at work programs, internships, things that get kids credit, but get them really productive experiences. And those are things that we could do, and they could be attached to Epic while they're out doing work. I don't need an extra teacher. I need to be able to assign a teacher to be able to monitor that. And so I think that's probably where we're headed, where we could serve 10 more kids who are going to be out doing a work program, or we could serve kids who are interning. And I think, and that's not my idea, that was Dr. Savage and Dr. Scriven came to Epic and said that was kind of like, that's one of those ways that we might be able to increase Epic's kind of reach in what we do for kids. But I'm not coming looking for, I know in this environment, and that's another piece I just want to say thank you to. I know this environment that we live in is a really very difficult, right? Funding's getting cut everywhere. And we're all being asked to do more with less. It's kind of just, it's just the world we're living in. And so to continue to be able to have this program is a blessing. And I just, every day I walk in and I'm very thankful that we're able to do this. And I think the kids who are there would say the same thing, even though they probably need prompted. Not just saying that, like, oh, I'm so glad to be here. But I think if you were to talk to them, they'd be very thankful that we're there.
My kids too, so.
Yeah, right. They don't just say stuff that we want them to.
But honestly, right, to that point, right, optimizing resources is essential. And as but it's also helpful as we do realize, right, okay, we might have some funding, we might have some funding there, already to know, like, all right, here are our priorities, here are some things that we know we want to fund when funds are available as well. So that's, I appreciate it. So, and it doesn't, at least from my perspective, that's not how it appears. And that's why I ask, is when I see all these things.
Yes, we're gonna have to do a lot with some of these extra, especially in the mental health, that our hope was not approved for the budget. I mean, we definitely have some things that we're gonna have to figure out how to serve kids the way we do now without the current kind of configuration of services that we had at our disposal this year. But we can do it. Now that we've seen it, we can make it happen. Thank you.
Any others?
Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Epps, I really appreciated your framing and the reflection of that. Thanks to the board, because, and Dr. Scriven in particular, for bringing this to us. And it's been such a great success story where no negative words about Epic from any type of stakeholders.
That's
So
Thank you.
I also,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And it's not because I don't talk to anyone. Right? Yeah, right. I also appreciate getting to see how it's accumulating, because when it first launched, it was framed as, I believe it was undercredited overage students, and this vision is now more focused on school attendance, students with school attendance and engagement challenges. And focus means effectiveness, I think, as you're referring. I do have a question around students who may be overage, undercredited, but aren't dealing with school attendance or engagement challenges. And I can imagine a wide variety of like ESL and things along those lines. And I know we are providing other forms of support. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that I'm not saying we're not supporting those students as well. If somebody's in the public listening to this right now and saying to themselves, I have a student in high school who fits this bill, and I think would do it amazingly with their parents, how do students get identified, and how would a parent potentially raise their hand and find out how to get them?
So if they're currently in the high school at Cheltenham High School, their first line of contact would be their counselor at the high school. And they would go to their counselor and they would say, I heard a presentation on Epic. I'm wondering if, my child will fit that profile. And the counselor will start that ball rolling. Counselor will bring in the administrator. But really, and I've even done it with students and I have staff members who come and say, I think this would really be great for this student. And I'll say, okay, then you need to go to Dr. Ann Trendle, because that's that child's counselor, and that counselor will then start collecting the data that is needed to kind of say whether or not Epic is going to get it. And you're right, it's not just children who are overage and undercredited. However, that population has attendance issues, has school engagement issues. That's why they're overage and undercredited. And so it's all kind of a part of it. I don't think I have any children in the building right now that aren't overage and undercredited.
Understood. Right.
However, they all have some holistic needs that we need to support.
Right.
And so that it's kind of part of that, but the entree would be to their students' guidance counselor.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I look across our strategic plan and look at the 7 pillars we focus on, and I don't see a single pillar that's not represented, which is exactly the way that we should be approaching our educational endeavors here. The one area I did want to focus on and highlight is equity. Equity is not everybody getting the same thing. Equity is everybody getting what they need. And so looking at this group of underserved students who we recognize institutionally in our system were underserved, that's why this was created. We created this specifically because we recognized the need in our students and needed to address it. And so first, thank you for your vision for seeing this opportunity for our students to re-engage and work in this way and to make up credit. It's enormous, not just for those students, but for the way that we think about and approach public education, which can often be rigid. We have state standards, we have requirements, we have things that change slowly. over time in public education. And this is representative of a way that we have adjusted within our own system to meet a specific group of students, even within the resources that we currently have, that other schools are not doing. Some schools are doing, but many schools are not doing. And so, echoing my colleagues, congratulations and thank you for the first year of this work. I did have a question around, I noticed that you said there were students who were graduation dates of 2023, 2024. I'm wondering if as we catch up some students, will it make a little bit of extra space for us to catch some students who may not have been?
Yes, yes. And so the hope would be, my hope would be that we can graduate our class of 2023 and 2024 students this June.
Mhm.
And therefore, we're only dealing with children of their actual graduation.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Catching
really, that's
system.
really where we
Yep.
want to be. And I'm hopeful that that happens. I don't have a sense of, and this is just my own personal lack of knowledge. I don't have a sense of, did we capture all of them when we started EPIC? You know, was that a priority for the counseling team when they put together the list? And did we capture all the students who are behind in the 2023, 2024s? I think I got all the 2023s. And I think I have all the 2024s, but I'm not 100% certain. So I can go back to the counseling team and just make sure that I did, because we want to prioritize those students first.
Yeah.
Because those are the students who are most undercredited over age. And so that would be, for me, the group that we would need to capture first. But I would hope that we get to a point, if it's not this year, then it's the next year, where we are no longer seeing those super seniors, right? Because the kids who are in there that are class of 2024 and 23 are super seniors. They're doing their school in more than 4 years of high school. And we don't want that if we don't need to have that. And so, yeah, I would think that we would be able to be caught up, if not by this year, by next year, for sure.
Great. And so you're pulling in the students with the highest needs, the students who need the most first, and then
Yes.
we can start to pull in some more maybe on the periphery.
That's the intention for this incoming group.
Yeah.
I think it was always the intention, but I have to be really very clear that when we created EPIC, I don't think any of us knew how families were going to feel about sending their children to a program outside of the high school.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, we went to 50, and the first 50 we got, we're like, "Ooh, you were on our list. We got 50, we're going with you." They were all needy, but I mean, the list of need was giant. And so we just started. We prioritized the list and we just started. And I will tell you, quite honestly, the families of the students who are there now are families who were just so thankful that there was another option for their children. Because if they spent another year doing the same thing, that's insanity, right? And so they knew that, and they were just thankful. And so we didn't have a lot of resistance, and I continue to not have very many parent resistors. In fact, I don't think I have any parent resistors. The parent buy-in has been strong because their kids' experience has not been positive to this point. And I think we've changed that. I think we've shifted. And I'm proud of that.
You should be proud of it. That's really great. That's really great to hear. Thank you for that work.
Thank you.
I have one more thought on the data I'll share. This kind of information, we talk about data-driven decision-making. This kind of information is critical for us to understand yearly, because we have dedicated resources to this in a way that we have not dedicated resources to an individual effort like this in the past. And this is, even at this stage, demonstrating the effectiveness of targeting these kinds of interventions for these students. And so as a single board member, I will say, I welcome the vision from administration for ideas that are innovative within the structure in which we have to operate. And so this is a great example of something that has made it through the administrative vetting process that you all kind of work on together, and has been brought to the board that has adjusted the way that we approach our thought and work here, that now we can all take and say is effective, and maybe something that we want to flex outward to see what other kinds of peripheral students are we not catching in these ways, and what other kinds of things do we want to engage in to meet specific groups of underserved students. And so appreciate the vision for innovation in the district and welcome the data that supports.
Okay, Ms. Henry, do you have anything you want to add? Oh,
In the chat, because I was listening to everything that everybody said, and this is such great work. I'm like so appreciative and just happy for our students who are benefiting from this experience, but also the administrators, because this is, like when you hear the way that the administrators are leaning in and the gratification that they're getting from helping these students is really powerful. It's a powerful story.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from folks that are in the community? Okay, well then I would like to add my.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Okay.
Oh, yes. Please tell us your,
Can't sit here in silence, so.
please tell us your full name and.
So.
Let's sit at the table, by the way.
I'm going to stand. Good
Okay,
evening, I'm Dr. Cheryl Horsey.
yes,
I happen to be a retired administrator from the school district. I have 3 children who graduated from the district and a current grandson who's in the district. I want to thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Tribble, Ms. Savage, for allowing me to come back and lend my support to this wonderful program. And I say just about every day to Dr. Zubairu and others, this is a program of opportunities. As you heard, you have students who should have graduated in 23, 24, and they have graduated, and they are in the world of work. This program has changed lives. And I just thank you so very, very much for approving it and allowing me to spend some time there. Thank you.
thank you. Dr. Zubairu, on top of all the other things, I am grateful for your very thoughtful and laid out self-assessment.
Mhm.
Thank you.
It doesn't make us have to figure out what is going on. So we definitely appreciate the fact that you laid out such a comprehensive assessment of your work and the work that your team is doing over at Epic.
There's a lot we've learned this year. As you can imagine, the first year of doing anything, you learn a lot. And so every day we're having conversation. Even today, we had a conversation about, we have a check-in in the morning and a check-out in the afternoon, and we need to make them more effective. How do we do that? And so we talked about removing a transition. How do we do that? And then we talked to the teachers about minutes of instruction versus those kinds of things. So we're having those conversations and we're doing them more now because we're thinking about moving to EP and kind of putting it all together. But I think we're on a path where we're going to be able to really fine tune some of the things that we just weren't able to get right because we couldn't have anticipated them as well as we thought we could.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Okay, Ms. Collins, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zubairu. Okay, next, not as exciting.
Talk about graduation.
It's so we will present graduation report data just so everyone's aware. So in 2017, we had Act 158 and then also Act 6 that established the 5 pathways to meet graduation requirements in the state of Pennsylvania. With that, it had us rethink how we support our students and pathways they can meet the requirements. So, because the easy pathway number 1 is Keystone Proficiency, meaning that you score proficient or advanced on all 3 of the Keystone exams. Then they came the Keystone Composite score, which was a score which allows students, if you reach that particular score, as a sum of all your 3 scores on the 3 exams, but you couldn't have a below basic in any of the tests, you could meet it that way. Then pathway 3 is the CTE for our students who are at CTE school, whether they actually receive the credential or demonstrated that they were highly proficient. And that's a conversation that we would have with Eastern to identify those students and meet in that pathway. And then we have the pathway 4 and pathway 5, alternative assessment, and then 5 is evidence-based. Alternative assessment, there you'll see the use of SAT, PSAT, some of those tests, college acceptances as well in that area. And then evidence pathway allows our students who are not only like maybe in our diversified occupations or receive credentialing such as CPR and things like that. In addition, so there's all these different steps. If you have step 1, you check that off, you can get that. And then you 2 from step 2 and you meet your pathway. So it provides an opportunity for all our students. Is really important. And when I go through the data, I'll then explain some of the exceptions that we're allowed to have as well. But annually, we must submit this report to the state. When we initially, our first time we submitted it, it was actually due January 1. So thankfully, they changed their minds and pushed it back to December 1st for this past year. But I must acknowledge Ms. Rachel Girman, say thank you to her and all her work and our counselors at the high school to ensuring that we collect the data, have it and link it so that we can really have a strong understanding of where our students are and where they're placed. So I thank you, Rachel, publicly. And our high school counselors, if they're not listening as well, for all the work they did with our students to gather and collect the data to make sure that we could submit this report to the state. This is for the class of 2024. This information was submitted in December as well. And although like I am presenting this data at that time, I was out of the district, so on personal family leave. And I want to thank everyone here for stepping in. I appreciate you. Officer is great, Dr. Scriven and Ms. Tober Jackson, Ms. Savage, so thank you. So we had 66 students who met the pathway 1 for the class of 2024. As you can see, for pathway 2, we had 64 students, and then for pathway 3, we had 25 students. And it's not, these numbers are not saying that these students just had only 18% of our senior class was proficient on the path on the Keystone. It's just which pathway kids decided to.
Yeah, another round.
Yeah, yeah, yes. No, it's just it made what made sense for students at the time because. Oh no. No, that one, like, not me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So.
So,
Yeah, well, shocked. It's our Zoom.
yeah.
The 3 was also shot.
Yeah. So, no, because what people understand is important is that, as you know, we had a pandemic and some of our kids take Keystone exams at different times. So during the pandemic, what the state allowed happen is if kids were enrolled in a course during that year that we stopped school, then they automatically received the proficient. The problem with that was once those kids maybe got to the high school or it was time for them to take the other exams, if they didn't score maybe a proficient in an exam, they couldn't do the composite pathway because they didn't have a score from the pandemic year. So we had to look at alternative ways to help them meet the pathway. And we have a number of students who decided, oh, I'll just do the alternative assessment pathway because I took the PSAT, I have that score, I took the SAT, I have a college acceptance to a 4-year accredited institution. So there's other options for kids. So don't let this drive. This is not our percentage of Keystone data students who are proficient on the Keystone. So don't have our failure. So here's the alternative assessment pathway where you see we have 84 students who took that pathway. I gave you sample examples of what that means. In addition, on the first slide, there's a link to the actual website. PDE did an excellent job in SAS of creating a graduation pathways toolkit that's open to the public. You can see everything. So if you were to click on that, you can actually have access to the website and read through all the information that's there. And then here's the evidence-based pathway here. At sample evidence for 1 in section 2. It's important to note that you must have at least 1 credential from section 1. And then you can have 2 or 1 or 1 and 2 combination from section 2, okay? So here are some of our exceptions. We have some students who graduate on their IEP goals. That determination the state suggests and recommends that determination is made prior to students entering their senior year. So it should be made during their junior year. whether or not to, for our students whose IEP program, it just demonstrates not that, that they would graduate with their goals. We cannot just say all our special ed kids can graduate on goals. We're not allowed to do that. We'll get violated, it's a violation of the state, and they will come and audit us. So this is a small number, and that's why you see we only have 5 students in that category. We also have the ability, Dr. Scriven has the magic wand to get a waiver. And those exceptions are for extenuating circumstances. You know, we have students who come to us in 12th grade, so therefore they wouldn't have taken any of the Keystone exam. Or someone who experienced loss in the family or personal trauma, and we're aware that we also have that as well. And this year is the last year that we're able to take what they call the COVID pandemic waiver, which was what we kind of used our first year, because they basically allowed a greater number of students. The superintendent had more discretion to waive more students that first year. But we could never, once you did it the 1 year, you couldn't go over that number the following years. But this class of 2025 is the last year that we would have the opportunity to take the waiver for COVID. And then unfortunately, we did have 23 students who did not meet state and local requirements. Some of them may be with Ms. Zubairu at this time because they were a class of 2024.
Nope.
So some of them may be at EPIC, and I don't know the specifics on each student, but some of them may be at EPIC, but that was our little percentage of 6.48%.
We know it's too little. Reversed.
So out of our, we had 355 students eligible to graduate for the class of 2024. We graduated 332 students, which gave us a percentage of 93.52%. And next, we will have Rachel give her data. That's exciting because it looks like we will exceed this number for this school year for the class of 2025. And Rachel has been diligent and ensuring that we have the data collections to ensure all of our students meet the graduation pathway. I also would like to add, because this came up in questioning with Ms. Zubairu around, she discussed opportunities for students. I've been working with Mr. Hoff at the high school that we are expanding our senior internship experience for students next year, and that will also extend over to EPIC. As you know, the board approved, allows us to move forward our diversified occupation program, which allows students to get credit and paid work experience. But that program has guidelines that we must follow PDE. We know there's a number of students who would love the opportunity to have experiences that's outside of the realm of the diversified occupation. So we are expanding the senior internship experience for next year. So our students will also have the opportunity to work in fields of interest as they graduate next year and earn credit as well. So that is something that will definitely happen. Because we already had the internship as a course. So we are just expanding our opportunities, and we have another teacher who will support that work next year.
So, this is where we are at this point for class of 2025. Students have until, I believe, the 30th of May to submit, and then the reality is they also have until October 1st, according to the state. So if there are students who don't meet the expectation for whatever reason, they do have time. We just don't want that to happen to them, because once they are done, we want them to be able to be done. And so we have them until about the 30th. So these are our numbers for right now. 60 of our students met the first pathway, 84% met our composite pathway, which is up by about 20 students from last year, which is awesome. 24 students met either through Eastern or through our diversified occupations program at the high school. 72 students on the alternative pathway, 58 on evidence-based. Right now we have 15 students who will graduate in IEP goals. However, that number of students will go down because those are also potentially students who are continuing on through the extended time. So those are students who are turning 18 who are supposed to, through the calculation of number of years in school, be able to graduate, but a significant number of those students are going to be continuing on. So that number will go down. And then we have 3 students right now who are on our superintendent program. And that was our status as of the 16th. I know there are 2 more students, 1 more for the alternative pathway and 1 more for evidence-based. So that puts our number at 94.3%.
And can I just add to also what Rachel just said, just also for our students that graduate this year, some of them may have credentials, but they may not graduate because there's short credits. So this allows us to, those students who finish their courses over the summer, that allows us to also count them. That's why we did the extension to October 1st.
So, and then the number from, the number for last year, for example, and that was a great example. We actually hit 96.5% last year for meeting Act 158, but you saw that our percentage was at 93, and that would be through the credentialing piece, where students didn't have the credits that they needed, but they still did meet the pathway according to those state requirements. They just didn't meet our district requirements. And then this was part of our multi-tiered systems of support update. So one of the things that we've been working on really diligently this year is trying to implement a much stronger and more succinct MTSS program to support our students. Epic is a great example of our tier 3 support when they get to the high school. But one of the platforms that we use through Linkit is called Intervention Manager, and that's where our teachers do a lot of their documentation and maintenance. So just to give you an idea, at the high school and at Epic, we have 106 checklists, 11 requests for assistance, 27 intervention plan. 1 plan was closed during the year, and 5 students were referred to evaluation.
What is a checklist?
So tier 1 checklists are checklists that teachers fill out when they notice that a student is struggling. There's a checklist that they can fill out to identify what are the things that they've tried, what works and what hasn't. And then the system will offer some other suggestions to them that they could try. We ask them to try for about a 4-week period. And then after that 4-week period, that student is still struggling, then they would go into the assistance process. That could be the teacher requesting assistance, or that could be the team determining that the student needs support. But the checklist is meant to be a support for teachers in terms of instructional strategies that they could use if someone is struggling in their class. And then if that doesn't help, we create an intervention plan where students would get either what are called tier 2 or tier 3 interventions. Epic is one of those tier 3 interventions.
This is the entry point in many ways.
Yes, exactly.
But, sorry, should I pause? Because I just wanted a clarity, so okay, so, but students who don't have a checklist, that just means they're not in this MTSS open door. It doesn't mean that they're not, their teacher isn't saying, okay, there's like it doesn't mean they're not being tracked and like what's happening and like that, okay.
Yeah.
But the checklist is actually, things aren't working, this is what I've tried.
Yeah.
Let's try some other things.
Yes, and students who have an intervention plan don't necessarily always start with a checklist. We know that there are some students who walk in who have significant enough issues that we know that they need support. We don't have to make them wait to go through these like 30-day, 60-day processes in order to provide them with that support. So just because they don't have a checklist doesn't mean they don't have an intervention plan, or vice versa.
There was no.
Yeah, that's why I was like, what, anything, whatever.
Anyone else have a question or comments?
I'll just continue because I'm glad Ms. Kenny's still here because you were able to hear Dr. Whiting's comments and and when you said tier 3, I was like, yes, MTSS is what we're talking about. Because honestly, because we've been hearing it so much more and more, how, just from when it was a chart on a slide deck about, okay, here's what we're thinking about putting in some structure. And then we're actually talking about systems in place for once you try things, you've got there's a whole book on checklists. So, I mean, I'm going to pause my excitement a little bit, but just the steps that we'll see in progress for MTSS, the academic, behavioral, and it's not a silver bullet, so to speak, but it just seems to be such a powerful tool that we're going to be able to use for so many different students.
Right. Anyone else? No one online?
I see Charlene was able to join us. I don't know if she has anything she wants to add.
Hope Skirling's okay.
I do not. My team for stepping in. We had a massive tooth accident today.
Hope he's okay.
He'll get there.
Oh, no.
Do we have any comments from the room?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, please tell us
This is
your.
the end of all the business, and I don't want to keep you longer than it is.
it's late, I know, but,
Would you please tell us your name
oh,
and where
sure.
you
Yes,
reside?
my name is Mary Jo Sildaki, and I live at, Mill Road in Elkins Park, 19027. I was here a couple of months ago, with a colleague, and, we have both, are concerned, about scenarios if, indeed ICE would, come to our schools and our community, and how I'll take care of it for it. And like, I have all these things prepared, but I know one thing that I wanted to bring up was that Senator McCormick, recently at his town hall, I think it was last month, it was a phone one, of course, not a real one. He made a very disturbing comment about, there's going to be, excuse me, but I just want to get the words. No. He said that in this town hall that we should expect in Pennsylvania, showdown, in the sanctuary cities and counties. And we are sanctuary county. I don't, maybe not allowed to say that anymore. But, I really think that it's important, policies in place so that we can react to this. Anything comes up. I mean, we have, children that are US citizens being deported. And I just, as a member of the community, I just, it's very diverse here. I know from the last meeting that you're very confident that the procedures are in place, that we don't ask for children's immigrant status, or we don't ask for birth certificates, etc. But I think that we need to go further. I think that we need to make sure the schools are aware of how this could happen, because it could happen very quickly, and we don't know. We don't know what to do. So or maybe you do have some of these things in place, but I would ask, just to make it shorter, that we again ensure every staff member, including school police, are aware of immigrant rights that are in place in the United States. Even if things change, as they do every day, those are still pretty steady. And every school really should have a plan and a procedures in place if ICE would ascend. I went to a meeting on immigrant rights at the Elkins Park Library, and there was a Philly principal who I used to teach in her school years and years ago. And she does a procedure where, if ICE would come, if agents come, of course, you can't just walk into the school, so they're outside, and she is notified. She meets them outside, asks for the documents, make sure it's the right one, make sure it's signed, and then she photographs it and goes to and talks to the lawyer, their lawyer, before she won't even let him in the building. So things like that, that could help our kids feel safe. I was hoping that we could have a letter or communication to all our school families and community, really concerning our understanding and care for the immigrant communities, and ensuring that they know that there are protections in place and that there are resources in place too. There's a lot of things that can help. And I could tell you about them, or there's lots of, I know you can just look online and find out.
So
that
if I could just interject, because
oh, I'm sorry, that's okay.
no, and it's quite all right, but everything that you are recommending, we have already initiated.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. You have initiated, the letter, when did the letter come out?
Months ago.
Months ago.
I can pull all the documentation. It was probably shortly thereafter, and probably already in the process the last time you
Right,
revisit
right.
it.
You had told me that, you were gonna speak
Yeah,
with some
yeah.
other,
And one thing about our district, about myself and leadership here in this board is that we just don't talk. We put talk into action.
Yes.
And, we initiated a protocol. We did training for every school. We did training for every secretary in every school. And we clearly communicated, to our larger community. So I didn't wanna, I just didn't want you.
well, I know, I'm going on.
Right, well.
Well, I really appreciate that. We've been like, I haven't been to a meeting in a couple of months.
Understand.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And one other concern that I would have.
Okay.
Do you want to say something?
Yes, I was gonna ask if you could put this in an email and send it.
Sure.
The time for the comment is past,
Oh, I see.
and so you're over that time, so I just wanted to make sure we capture everything that you want
Okay,
to
yes,
say.
I did have one more thing I wanted to say, in concern to the county commissioners.
Oh, yeah, not us.
Okay.
So, let me give you my email address, because you do have a pen handy, correct?
Yes.
It's, B as in boy, SCRIV as in Victor, EN at Cheltenham.org. And I'll follow up with you, and I can also send you the attachments.
Oh, that would be great. I have a community of people that'll be thrilled to hear that. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, that's wonderful. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
Okay, seeing no other hands. I would like to ask for Mr. Schultz, do you have something?
Yes, like that. Say adjourn.
He's gonna adjourn us.
No.
All right, I would like to move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in
I missed
favor?
anything there.
Aye.
I
You were concentrating